First, Joe, you pointed this out in the Wall Street Journal. It's so interesting. It's entitled An Affair to Remember, and we saw this week Monica Lewinsky came out against cyberbullying, talked about being one of the first people to really have her name just, splash across the internet and forever changing her life. Part of it says this, and then I'll read what we have in a graphic. The problem is that Ms. Lewinsky was actually the victim of the Clinton Lagoon, as White House operatives tried to destroy her reputation when the scandal broke. The real bullies weren't online, but in the West Wing. There's a part where Hillary Clinton is described as calling her a narcissistic Looney Tune. And then the piece goes on to say, we correct the record, not least to the point that the Clintons weren't above falsely smearing a young woman not much older than their daughter as an oversexed psycho blackmailer. Since Ms. Lewinsky brought it up, we also wonder what the modern feminists applauding her address think about men in positions of power publicly shaming a female subordinate without her consent. Joe?
Well, this obviously would just be a rerun of an episode in our history that I don't think any of us really care to relive.
No.
It was a very ugly time, except for the fact that Hillary Clinton is going to run for President of the United States, and she's going to talk about a war on women. And she was famously in charge of the, quote, bimbo eruptions. And she, along with people in the West Wing, very powerful men, it's their job to destroy any women that were victimized by Bill Clinton's behavior. And so Bill Clinton's behavior will not be at issue in 2016. What will be at issue every time Hillary Clinton talks about a war on women, as the Wall Street Journal points out, will be what she did to 22-year-old interns. We just wonder whether the women's movement will be as shamefully quiet or abusive in 2016 of Miss Lewinsky as they were. Betty Friedan infamously called her some little twerp. Gloria Steinem said she wasn't going to bow to right-wing pressure by getting involved. And so how does Hillary Clinton really talk with a straight face about a war on women when she engaged in vicious wars on women just to maintain power in Arkansas and in the White House? Again, Bill Clinton's personal behavior will not be at issue. How Hillary Clinton responded to hold power, to maintain power, to increase power, crushing a 22-year-old woman as an oversexed bimbo, that's who victimized Bill Clinton, a guy who was more than twice her age. That, I don't know how she gets away from that.
So, but I do think there's this sort of cone of silence that might just answer to that, Joe. And I mean, when you said we don't really want to talk about this, Senstein, you said thank you.
Yeah.
Why don't you?
I'm having like nervous flashbacks.
Why? But why are you nervous to talk about it? I'm curious.
Well, I'm not nervous so much. I'm not nervous to talk about so much about the issues and what Joe mentioned. It's just that this is one of those things that has gone through so many iterations and litigations, and we've talked about it for almost well over a decade at this point, that there is sort of this, you get a little tired of it. I would say to Joe's point, I do, and a lot of people probably do draw a distinction, I should talk to the camera, probably do draw a distinction between how Hillary Clinton treated a personal family matter, which clearly I would say objectively she was, they treated Monica Lewinsky terribly. I think the Journal's right about that. Right. On the flip side, you can separate that from how Hillary Clinton would approach policy matters that affect the vast majority of women in the country. I mean, those are two very different things for a lot of people.
Caddy, are you still...
Well, if this were just a personal family matter, that would be one thing. The fact is that Hillary Clinton would get together with powerful men in Arkansas, in the governor's mansion, and in the West Wing, and it wasn't to protect her family, it was to protect and increase her power and her husband's power. So it's not just a family issue. With the word family
but there's
issue.
always been a criticism of her as an opportunist, right, and someone who's a political operative at heart, and I think that's a big criticism that she's going to have to confront. That's separate from how she handles female women's issues.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. She can have a very complicated personal relationship with the women that Bill Clinton were involved in, and her hurt and whatever she might have said. You could put in that context, and you can separate that from the policies that she might enact when it comes to equal pay, when it comes to a woman's access to contraception, and she could be doing a perfectly good job on that. I'm not sure, Sam, that we really have discussed this very much. I don't think that the egregious nature of Bill Clinton's behavior when it came to Monica Lewinsky or other young women really has been aired terribly much. I have a feeling he's had a pass on this.
Totally.
He got a pass on the way that he behaved, and it was absolutely appalling. And I don't think he's ever really been held accountable.
And Monica Lewinsky has not gotten a pass. Her life has been forever.
So her life has been totally turned upside down by this.
Turned upside down.
We should examine this, though.
Well, it is, Mika, it is such a pass that he's gotten. And again, we are going into that swamp. And Thomas, I'll let you go next. That we spoke to one of the most powerful people in Washington, D.C., who was talking about this and talking about Hillary's issues. And the conversation went around, and the name Juanita Broaddrick came up at the table. And she said, "Who is Juanita Broaddrick?" My God, that question right there tells you about the cone of silence that has enveloped Bill Clinton for well over a decade. I'm sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
Well, no, I was just going to say that as we look at this and re-examine some of this, let's just decide that time has been served and release these two women from the past. Let's move forward from this, especially Monica Lewinsky, who admits suicidal thoughts. She's 41 years old. She can't be a prisoner to her past. She needs to move forward, not be attacked by the media. It's a new day and age. Hillary Clinton, she can move forward, but you're right. The onus does lie on Bill Clinton, who used a position of power to attract
But Thomas,
and seduce a young
can I
woman.
tell you, Thomas, I think Bill Clinton has been tried, and to talk about his character going into 2016 is almost like double jeopardy. Americans have decided that Bill Clinton was a very bad actor. They like him anyway. The question as we move forward, as the Wall Street Journal brings up this morning, isn't about Bill Clinton's behavior. The question is about Hillary Clinton's behavior in a position of power and how she used that power, and did she use that power improperly to crush young women that her husband took advantage of. I think that, Thomas, I think that's relevant.
As the spouse of Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
As just the spouse. That's what she was. She wasn't an elected official. She was just the spouse of Bill Clinton.
Just a spouse. She ran domestic policy for the White House for the most part. I mean, Al Gore was enraged at how powerful she was because he wanted to run domestic policy, but he learned very early on that it was Hillary. And of course, if Hillary had just retired to a farm in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania after 2001, then we wouldn't be talking about this.
What payroll was she on?
Person in the world.
What payroll? What American payroll was she on?
That farm sounds alluring.
But what appointed American payroll was she on using power to crush young women?
I'm sorry? What people were talking in my ear.
What payroll was she on? What position was she using that she was appointed to? What American payroll was she on trying to crush young women that were in the way of their power coupleness?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't even know that it's a question of her power. But if you want to talk about living in the Arkansas governor's mansion for as long as she did, and living in the White House for as long as she did, and being the second most important person in both of those places, then I don't think there's any question that she used. Well, I've already said it. I'm not going to repeat it anymore.
And I think the bigger question is why...
I said it enough 15 years ago. It's not my job to talk about it. It's the press's job to actually ask tough questions and not cower in the corner for ideological reasons like they did in the late 1990s and like the feminist movement did in the late 1990s. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm also, next block, we're going to debate WMDs and McCarthyism.
Josh, your piece actually requires an entire conversation.
I'm going to take a shower now.
So stay with us if you can, Josh Green. Also ahead, terror in Ottawa was